Okay, so we're back in MetaEditor again, carrying on making the trader class. In the last episode, just to recap, we made the parent class, which was here. We made some protected functions and variables, including our MQL trade request and result. We created some public functions to change those numbers, which we have protected. And we created the functions for them, which were fairly simple. And then we also created a netting class, which is a child of the parent CTrader class. We created a protected function to open a position. And then we used that open position function to create two public functions for buy and sell. And we also created a close function to close any open volume that we have in a netting trading account. So our open position volume there, where we worked out the volume depending on any open volume that we have. We also used a buy and a sell, where we inputted the order type for convenience. And then we had the close, which was very similar to the open position function, except we capped the volume at the maximum open volume already that we have open position that we have, so we don't end up swinging the other way and going the opposite direction when we didn't mean to. So now we're in a position where we want to create the hedging class. So with our netting trading class, you can only have one position open at any time. And when you close a position, really, you're just opening a position in the opposite direction. I mean, that's what you're doing anyway, but that's all you can do with netting. You can only have one position open at any one time, which is either long or short, and you can adjust those volumes accordingly. With hedging class, which was the only way you could do it in MQL4, you can open as many orders as you like. They can be in opposing directions. And with each of those orders, you have a ticket number. So with a netting system, you don't really need a ticket because you've only got one position on that symbol. With a hedging system, you need to keep track of your tickets because otherwise you can't find them to close those positions or do anything with them. And it's also worth noting that with a hedging system, you can have multiple systems that may contradict each other. So you might have long positions and short positions open at the same time. And that will mean that you're paying swap fees on all those positions if you hold them overnight in particular. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Sometimes it is more efficient to use netting class, but sometimes you don't have that choice because it depends on the broker that you use. So we're going to create basically the same functions that we created for our hedging system, but this time we're going to do it for our this time we're going to do it for a hedging system rather than our netting one. So first of all, we need to create our child class, which is going to be CTrader Hedging, and it's going to be derived from the parent CTrader class as we did before. We're going to encapsulate some of our functions and variables. So we'll have protected, and again, we'll have an open position. Now, this time around, our open position function is going to return a U-long, which is a number, an integer number that is great U before the long that we have here. I've not mentioned this before, but that simply means that it will be a positive number only, not negative. So we're using U-long because that's what's returned for the ticket number. And we'll have our open position function. Now, much like before, we'll have our inputs. So we'll have our symbol, we'll have our order type, we'll have, we'll have our volume, much like before. We will also have stop loss, take profit, and comment. So we'll have, we could have just copied these from the functions that we had made previously, but nevertheless, we'll write it out for now, being as we've started. So we need to do take profit as well, make sure that's proper camel case. And lastly, we'll have a string p comment, and that's going to equal null to begin with. And that's our function for opening a position which is protected, so it can only be accessed internally. So in order to access that function, we'll create some public functions which can be accessed outside, which will use the buy, and we'll return the ticket number as well that will pass through. So again, we're using the P, we're going to use a symbol. I'll just take all of these from the open position. I will pop them into here, except we do not need the order type because we know this because we're opening a buy, so that is something we already know. So we can say that, and then what we can do is we can also copy the whole thing, create another function called sell, and lastly we'll use the same again, but this one will have a function called close. Now close will not return a ticket number because we're closing a position, and we're not going to put in a symbol. We need to put in a ticket number. So this is again where hedging is different. So we need to know what is the ticket that we would like to close. We'll put in a default volume. We don't need a stop loss and take profit. And we just need a comment. We need to make sure that we have all our commas in the right place. Let's double check. So we've got no warnings so far when we compile, which is lovely. So now we can go and we need to flesh out these 4 functions that we have made. We've not created any variables for them. We've just got some functions in this child class. So the first one we have is our open position function, which needs to be part of the hedging class. Let's get that right. So CTrader hedging double-colon open position. It's going to fill that out for us, and let's tell it what we want to do when we call this function. So as before, we're going to 0. In fact, I'll just come up here, copy those, 0 memory from that. We then need to fill in our request object. So again, this is all very similar. In fact, what we'll do is we'll come up again. We'll take this out from the open position we wrote before because a lot of this is similar. So action deal, symbol is right, the type is right, the volume we haven't set here because in a netting system we're not taking into account any open volume because we can open as many positions as we like. It doesn't matter if we already have positions already open. So in many ways our system will be a bit easier. We need to work out the type of is this the right one? That's the closed position. Let's go to open position. We need to know the price, which comes from our buy or sell. So we can copy that from the previous function again. So if the type is a buy, we are going to use the ask price from the symbol info double function. And if the type is a sell, we are going to use the bid price, and we're going to set the request.price to the bid price. Lovely. Right. Last but not least, we need to do our order send function a slightly different way. So in the previous class, we did the order send function with our request and our result, like so, which is fine. But this will return, if you press F1, this will return a bool, which is true if the order is sent successfully. So we need to know, but what we want to do is we want to return a ticket number. So we need to know first, has that been successful? Because we can't get a ticket if the order send has not been successful. So we'll put the function within the if statement. Remember now, this function, even though it's within the if statement, it will execute. So we'll execute this function, it will send the request, collect the result, and it will return the Boolean that's here, which is here you can say the return value. In case of a successful basic check of structures, returns true. However, this is not the sign of successful execution of a trade operation. So it will return true, and we will then be able to get the result number. Now, this isn't full error checking. We'll cover that in the next lesson. We're going to look at making this execution process more robust. However, for the time being, we'll just take it that if the order send is true, then we're going to take it that we've had a successful result. That is not always the case, but for now we do. So, assuming then that the order send function has been successful, what we can use now is we can go to the result object, which will have been filled with the information, and we can get the order number, and that is the ticket number. So we're going to return, if the order send function is successful, we're going to return the order number, which is now, it has been populated by the system into the result object. If we get false and the order send does not work, we're just going to return 0. We could also do something like, say, print order send failed, and that would tell us that our order send has failed. So let's compile that, and we get no errors. So we're good to move on to creating the functions that will be our helpers, because remember, this is a protected function, so we can't access it except within the class itself. So we have to then create a helper function to access that, so that when we're writing at EA, we've got a function we can access. So we can go CTrader hedging. We've got a buy function we need to define. We've also got our CTrader hedging. We've also got our sell one that we need to define as well. So all these are going to do, very similar to what we did before, is we're going to return, and in fact, we'll just define a quick variable for our ticket, and we'll say open position, and we'll put in the parameters that we've just had. Now this is a buy, so we can say order type buy. We put in our P volume, put in our P stop loss, put in our P take profit, and put in our P comment. So that's all we're going to do for that, and we can copy that, put that into our there, and we also need to remember to return the ticket number, so we can do that with the return the ticket, which we need to do in both the buy and the sell. And we also need to make sure that our sell function actually is a sell function, which we've now done. So let's compile. We get no errors. Lovely. And we've now got the public functions, helper functions for buying and sell. So we can open buy and sell very easily in our expert advisor now. So lastly, we need to create a hedging class, which function, which is going to be part of our hedging class. We have our close and our close method. We've got our parameters. So let's define what we do. Now, again, we need to zero the memory, because a close action is exactly the same as an open action in the opposite direction of our current position. So we need to fill in our request object, which at the moment we can only fill in our trade action deal, which is pretty standard by now. And we can also fill in something we haven't used yet, is the request.position. So here is where we're talking about a ticket. So we can put the ticket number in to close that position that we want to close. Now the volume is set to 0, but as a default. But if we have the volume set to 0, what we want to do is, if we don't fill in the volume, we want to close the whole position. So the first thing we need to do is work out what the open volume is. So this should be a little bit familiar from the last lesson. We did this in the hedging system, in the netting system, sorry. We'll do the same here. So we're going to have two variables. We're going to have our open position volume, which is a double, and our open position type, which will be set to wrong value, same as we did before. We're also going to have an open position symbol, because we'll be using the ticket to access the position rather than the symbol, which is what you would do in a netting system where you can only have one position on only one symbol, whereas here you could have multiple. So what we need to now do is, we've got our ticket, we've entered a ticket in here as part of our close function. We now need to select that ticket. So we need to get the meta terminal to select a specific ticket that we can then work on. So we can use this position get ticket function here, which it needs the position select by ticket, we put in our ticket number, and that will select the ticket. We put it inside this if statement because we only want to work on the position if this returns true and we have successfully selected a ticket. If there are no positions that match that ticket number, then this will return false and we won't be able to close it. So what we'll do here is we will then find out our open volume, which is going to be position get double, and we'll do position volume. We'll do our open position type is going to equal position get integer, and we'll do position type, and we need to know our symbol, which is going to be position get string, because symbols are strings. And once we have that, we can now fill in our request object with that information. If we fail to select a ticket and our close function fails to work, we can just return the whole function as false, because we can return the whole function as false. We've not been able to select a ticket, therefore we've not been able to do that. So we could even put in here another print function which says no ticket found to close. So that gives us a bit of a heads up that potentially we've got an issue. So now we need to fill in our information. So we're going to say our request dot symbol equal to open position symbol. And we need to work out our volume to close. Now we need to cap the volume to try and close at the open volume that we currently have, and that works almost exactly the same as the function from the netting class. So we can do that. So again, if the volume that we want to close is greater than the open volume, or the volume we want to close is less than or equal to 0, so we've left it as the default, then we set the request volume equal to the open volume. Anything else for where we've got a smaller volume we want to close because we want to do a partial position, we're going to leave the parameter volume as the volume we're going to use. Finally, we need to say our price. So we'll take that from we'll take it from our close function from our netting example because it will be the right way around. So we need to find out. So if the type we have open is a buy, then we need a sell to close it, and our price needs to be a bid. If we are trying to close a sell, then we need to open a buy, and we need to use the ask price. And once we have that, because we're just returning a bool, we will send the request and the result over into the return. So this will return true or false if this is successfully sent, and that will get returned into the close. So that is there, and we have some errors when I compile. So let's have a quick looky at those. Open position type is an undeclared identifier. Why have I done that wrong? How's that coming up like that? Okay, let's have a look. Oh, I've typed something wrong there. Oh, that's not good. I've typed it without an I, which is why it's looking funny. Ooh, that's not good, is it? Right, have I corrected that? I think so. P symbol is an undeclared identifier. Now that's a good point because we're not using P symbol. Here we have our open symbol, which we had to work out. So that's there. Lovely. Right, so we've got rid of our errors. I think we have created our hedge and netting class now for opening trades. So the only thing to do is to open up our original expert advisor and use this include file to make the trades that we need to. Okay, so we're over to our expert advisor that we have been working on up to now. And in the last lesson, in lesson 9, we opened and closed our trades using this very manual method here. And that would be a bit of a pain to write in every single one of our expert advisors over and over again. So this is why we've written our trade class. So what we're going to do is the first thing is we need to make sure that our trade class, code that we've just written is included into this. So when this is compiled, it will bring over the trader class.mqh file as if it was part of the document. And so now you can see that has been here, down here. When you compile, it shows you that has been included, and here it is. So now we can use anything that was written in there in our expert advisor. A couple of inputs we need to set, which we didn't have before. So we need to be able to set our magic number, which is pretty standard for an expert advisor. So we're going to create a magic number here with a default value. Doesn't matter, it's just a unique identifier. We also need a deviation, which is going to be our maximum allowable slippage that the user can then set with the input. And then we can also create an input for our order type filling, which we'll call filling, and we can give that a default value of fill or kill. Let's see, filling, fill or kill. But the user can change that if that is not working for them, if their broker has a different method. So let's compile that, so that's fine. Now, we still aren't using our CTrader class. We've included the file, but remember, that's just a blueprint. What's in there is just a blueprint. What we need to do is create an object to work with. So we can now go to our CTrader hedging, because in the demo example that we'll be using, and you saw in the last lesson, you saw that it was a hedging account. So I will use the hedging version of our trader class. I'm going to call the object. So remember, like this in a variable, this is the data type here, and this is the name here. So our data type is an object of the CTrader class, and we're going to call it trader. So now when this runs on the first time that it runs, it will include the file. It will creates our spread checker object, which we used before, but also now we're creating our trader hedge object, which is a child of our trader object, and we've called it trader, which we can now use. So the first thing we need to do is we had in the parent class, you'll remember there were some functions to set the magic number, deviation, and fill type. So when we initialize the expert advisor, that's when we want to set those variables. So we can access those, and these were public functions, which means we can access it from our expert advisor. We can set those deviation, we can set that here, and what that means is now our object has got that information set to it. So when it fills in the request information, that will all get filled in already, which is lovely. So next, what we want to do is we need to go into our code for where we've opened and closed our open and close what we were doing, and we can now use our trader class to change some of this information that we have in here. Okay, so let's just go over where we were. So I think I've just realized a couple of things that we need to check and change. So we've set the initial ones up, and we need to alter our trade logic. Okay, so we don't need any of this anymore because we have that within our trader class, so we can get rid of those. We have our ticket number, which is a long position, but we're going to return a U long, so I'm going to change that because that comes from our functions. We're going to get our ticket from here. That's fine. And we're going to set our global variables to be true and false because we only want to have one position open at any one time. That's all fine. So here's the bit where we created or we use the indicator to open and close our positions. So this stays the same. Our message stays the same. The first thing we want to do is close our sell position. Now, here we've written this function out. And then we've written out all the stuff, and we've done the order send and all that. Now we can get rid of all of that. In fact, what we'll do is we'll get all of that. And we can simply put that our ball sent is not equal to order send. It's going to be equal to trader.close. We're going to put in our ticket number that we've just had, and we're going to leave that as is. Then we need to open the buy, and we can get rid of all of that. So we've got our ball sent, but in fact, we're going to get a ticket number back from this. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to sent, and we'll call this new ticket. And we are opening a buy order, so we can use trader, and this is where the magic is. All we have to write instead is that we want to open a buy. The symbol is the current symbol we want it to be on. We want the volume to be our input trade volume, and that's all we need to say for now, because we are not going to import stop loss or take profit at this stage. We're purely just doing that. Okay, so then we have a new ticket, which it will be returned and put into that variable there. So all of that code is replaced by that, and you can see it's much, much cleaner now in our code. We now have to do the reverse on this side. So again, we can get rid of all of this and get rid of this function, and we're just going to say trader.close our ticket number, which we've just attained, and a volume which we're not going to set because it will be the default volume. Lovely. And then we need to open a sell order. Again, we can get rid of all of this. And we're doing very similar to what we did here. So we'll just copy that. We need to put in here actually new ticket into our comment. Otherwise that's going to look weird. And we'll come back. So this is our open a sell order. So instead of trader buy, we're doing trader sell. So we've massively reduced and simplified our code by doing that. We've to open and close a trade now, all we need to do is use that class and use the method of that class, fill in the variables, the parameters, and off we go. The rest of the expert advisor is our other stuff, which we don't need, but we've seriously reduced the size of this because a lot of the hard work is being done by the C trader class. One thing I will say, actually, just I've remembered, we didn't set in the open position functions for them to use the magic numbers. So we'll just do request.magic is equal to magic number, because we set those up. So request.deviation is equal to deviation, and request.filling, or what is it now? Type filling is equal to filling. So we need those because we set those in the function, otherwise they won't work. So our other open position here as well, and we'll do that. So that's compiled there, and I really should have saved this, and it's another mistake. I'm making a few mistakes today. Oh well, we should have saved this as lesson 11. We'll compile that, and we can go now into the MetaTrader platform and see if that works. So let's activate the trading terminal. We will open up the strategy tester. Let me see, where's the tester? It's gone out of my mind. There we go. Strategy tester, and we will use lesson 11. And it doesn't really matter, but what we want is the visual mode. So this should operate, fingers crossed, exactly the same as it did before. And I'll just pause that there. So you can see we've changed the function of the code. You can see there's ticket numbers down here. Everything is working exactly the same way as before. We haven't changed the logic for this trading system. What we've changed is the foundations for this expert advisor. But we've made an expert advisor that, yes, it's taken us a bit longer to write. We could have thrashed this out much more quickly, and we have done in previous lessons. But what we have now is a very simple way to write expert advisors. Any new expert advisor going forward, we can include the trade class file, and then all we need to do to open a position is use the trader.buy, trader.sell, or trader.close, and off we go. It's much simpler than having to write out the request and result functions or structures, each time you're writing an expert advisor. This way is much more efficient, and I hope you appreciate that I've showed you this way, and I hope you find it as useful as I have found enjoyment in showing it you. So that's all for today's lesson. I appreciate it's been a long couple of lessons with a lot of time in MetaEditor, and it's sometimes difficult to go back and forwards between my notes, because I write all these out before, and writing it in the system. Sometimes there's more ums and ahs than I would like, but hopefully you followed along and it's been clear enough. If you have any questions or anything's not that clear, do give us a comment in the video below, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. But anyway, stay safe, all the best, and speak soon.